Hello, friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Kahlo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co host is David, aka Premier Pulse on social media.
Hi everyone, on today's episode, Jen explains asteroids.
Welcome to the show, grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share, you'll never feel alone.
All right, we have a few housekeeping things because we're going into November.
I know we're wrapping up this year. November is right around the corner. It's super exciting. And this is a good time of year. The only thing I will say this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is the year I felt it the most. The summer or the heat has just extended way too long.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
ridiculous.
close to like Halloween and it's still like it's hot. Like it's cooling down for like our standards, but it's still hot.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy.
Global warming. Shout out global warming.
Yeah. So, but we're gonna wrap up the new year, and I'm excited for 2025. I feel like those years that end in 0 or 5 are always memorable years. So we'll see what's in store. But a little housekeeping.
Yes, so our studio hours at Luna are shifting. So starting November, we will be open 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And to check specifically which weekends, check out my Instagram.
Yeah, and I think that's just for daylight savings, right? Because it gets dark earlier.
Yes.
So I'm so happy to be part of this space.
Yeah,
here at
I'm
Luna.
so happy to be in this space. It's been so wonderful.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we will also be open for the Mercado Night in Merced on November 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. So we will have special event discount rates if you want to walk in and get a reading for a little bit cheaper than normal.
Yeah, or even come say hi and check out the studio.
That too.
And when we've had the events, it's really cool. Sometimes people are like, "There's what's back there." I'm like, "Go check it out." Like you can see what's there, and they're like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah,
it's really fun seeing people's reactions to
Absolutely.
the studio. And then please continue to submit your questions and comments, ideally through SpeakPipe, but anyway is fine.
Yeah.
You can find all those links on your link tree, which is on your Instagram. We're starting to get a little more comments, which is good. We had kind of given up a little bit on our comment section, but our mighty community kind of keeps us going. So thank you everybody who comments. A lot of our comments are like anecdotal, which is cool still. So I think I might just have to start like writing some of those down myself just to make sure we're sharing them here. But we can start with Crystal Ann on Instagram. She commented on the Witches episode. She said, "Love this episode. Very informational, and Morbid was the first podcast I ever listened to." Morbid is a great podcast. It's one of my favorite ones. It's like two girls. I don't know their like friendship too much because I like pick and choose. So sometimes I'll listen to an episode and they're talking about some like inside joke, and I don't exactly know what's going on. But the stories are fantastic. They really have a way of doing good on that podcast. And then my mom, I talked to her about the Scorpio episode because she is a Scorpio and she said she enjoyed it. She says she listened to it twice.
Wow.
Which is like a huge compliment.
That is a huge compliment.
I listened to it and it was really good. I really enjoyed that. These last 3, which is Shadow Work and Scorpio season, have been I think really good. So hopefully we keep that momentum going with today's episode.
Yeah, October's been full of bangers, but we have one final voice comment from our voice comment queen, Janet.
And this is on Discord, so if you're not part of the Discord yet, make sure to join. And then we have our meetups that are once a month. Those are getting really fun. We're trying to have like creative ideas to engage the community. It's only 1 hour a month, so I know everybody is super busy. They're always on the weekend, so if you're interested, they're really fun.
Yeah. But I will play Janet's message from Discord now.
Okay, y'all. I just heard the Scorpio episode. Very spot on. Very fascinating. Oh, and fun fact, me and Jeffree Star share a birthday. We are both November 15th babies. So I really liked it. It was super good. To answer your question, David, it is very exhausting to be a Scorpio for sure, because we just don't know who is able to handle the information that we want to share. So we just don't. And then we just like assume Unless we actually find the answer and it's like, okay, I was thinking about it all wrong.
Well, there you heard it straight from a Scorpio's mouth, what it's like to be a Scorpio. It's cool getting that insider insight just to understand like what the mindset is. If people resonated, if the Scorpios in our life said, yeah, that's spot on or not. It sounds like Janet agrees with our assessment of Scorpios.
Yeah, and that's a really cool birthday twin to have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right. Today we're going to get into asteroids, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
I was honestly surprised we had this as a subject. We've had it planned for a while, and each time you kind of bring it up, I'm like, okay, what are we going to talk about? You keep messing up and keep saying comets, but it's not comets, it's asteroids.
Yes, it's because this is an advanced astrology technique that is also new to me, so I kept getting them confused, and I was like, wait, well, what's the difference? So, as NASA explains, an asteroid is a small rocky object that orbits the sun. Although asteroids orbit the sun like planets, they are much smaller. I accidentally call them comets, but comets are not the same thing. A comet is a small icy dirt ball that orbits the sun, made of ice and dust, while asteroids are made of rock. So very big difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one is small, the other one's smaller.
Yeah, and then there's like the big asteroid belt at the end of our solar system, I believe, right?
There's a big asteroid belt between, I want to say, Mars and Jupiter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, regardless, space trash.
Yeah.
What possible correlation could this have to like our astrology? I mean, I really don't believe in any other planets, but this one I'm like, okay, now we're literally talking about trash. So
Ultra skeptical.
Yes, ultra skeptical on this one today. So
Hey, I mean, there's Trubbish in the Pokemon universe, and Trubbish and Garbodor sometimes come in clutch in your Poke battles.
they never do. So
But you know what? I feel you, because the astrology community is definitely divided three ways about this issue. So
three-way split.
Yeah. So one side is like, why do we care about space pebble or space trash? Like, it has nothing to do with anything, whatever.
Even like the definition itself, they're not even big enough to be considered planets. They're literally NASA's definition is like they're just smaller rocks out in space. You know what I think of in this episode? It's that SpongeBob quote where Squidward's like, "That's just a stupid rock," and SpongeBob is like, "That's no rock. That's a boulder."
Pretty much. And so that's the vibe of the second side, which is, yes, they absolutely matter and they can provide important information. And then the third side, which is what I'm on, is they're fun and they're sometimes informative, especially if they're close to like another planet where you were born, but they're not critical. If maybe it makes sense this way, they remind me of like oracle cards versus tarot cards.
I was just thinking I was about to use that example. These comments are firing on all cylinders.
Yes. So it just adds a little nuance, but it's not super definitive.
It's like spice.
Exactly. Asteroids have been used in modern astrology since the 70s, but not in traditional astrology. So depending if someone's a more modern astrologer or like Hellenistic, aka traditional astrologer, you might see people with different opinions. But the most... Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, okay. I was just excited to talk about the most famous asteroid I can think of, but go ahead.
Okay, so the most commonly referenced asteroid in astrology is Chiron, aka the Wounded Healer. And for all asteroids that we reference, or really all the asteroids out there, you have to look at the mythology and then you'll understand their meaning. So in the mythology, Chiron was a centaur, half man, half horse creature thing, man, bear, pig vibes, who was the son of Apollo, who was the god of the sun. He was known as the wisest and most civilized centaur, and he was a teacher and tutor for a lot of heroes, including Achilles and Jason. But Chiron was poisoned poisoned by Hercules and died. But Zeus placed him in the sky as a constellation because he didn't deserve to be done dirty like that.
That damn Hercules.
Yeah. So basically, Chiron represents in your astrological chart your deepest traumas and the work necessary to overcome it. Because even though Chiron was wise, he ultimately still, like, you know, was screwed over in his life.
Why did they kill him?
I don't remember exactly why. Hercules gives me like Johnny Bravo vibes, where it's very like, what about me?
Okay.
Yeah, if you know that like old school cartoon. But yeah, I don't remember exactly why he killed him, but he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that lines up with kind of your trauma and your kind of work you need to do.
Yeah.
Kind of like shadow work when we talked about that recently.
Yeah, it really is like the asteroid of shadow work, or a shadow work that you definitely need to do. Other commonly referenced asteroids are Ceres, Pallas Athena, Juno, Vesta, Astraea, Iris, Hygeia, Prosperina, Diana, Apollo, Bacchus, and Hesta. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this last one. Hephaestus.
Hephaestus?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can read them and sometimes I can't pronounce them. Anyway, if you are a Hellenistic witch or you work with a deity, most likely there is an asteroid for it, and it's interesting to see where it is in your chart if that's your vibe.
Nice.
Yes.
What about the most famous asteroid of them all? The one that took out the dinosaurs? Which one was that one?
I don't know. I don't know what that one is called. And it's also not in space anymore.
Bro, that one's like the superstar asteroid.
What is it called?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
It's not in space anymore.
So it doesn't matter?
No, because it collided and it's like defunct.
Oh, these are active asteroids.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. Once they disintegrate and like...
Well, it's a bold statement to say that asteroid doesn't matter. It literally rewrote the Earth's history. But...
Okay, I mean in astrology.
Okay.
Yes. But my favorite website to look up asteroids and other things like that are AstroSeek, but there are so many more out there.
AstroSeek? Mm-hmm. That sounds like a dating website for space nerds.
That would be a cool concept. Actually, I think Eliza tried to make a dating app, Eliza Kelly, using like people's astrology, but unfortunately she was like too early with it. I think she tried to do this in like 2013, and so not enough people were like with it yet, and it failed. But
awesome. Okay. All right, let's learn about these asteroids. I'm still not even remotely convinced on this. This one, I'm taking a pretty strong stance.
It's fine. Even this astrology community is not...
Even the believers themselves.
is not fully convinced. I'm not fully convinced either. I just think it's a fun topic. Yeah, it's interesting.
I agree.
And for like all the astrology new students out there, like I'm 5-6 years into my study and I'm still learning a lot, so get the basics down. Don't like overwhelm yourself with like advanced topics. Just kind of like listen, and then eventually when you feel comfortable, go ahead and study that if that's what you want. But
I almost felt like this was going to be like the astrocartography one. That one I was like, and I came around completely. That practice I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But all right, let's talk about some of these asteroids and not comets.
Yeah. So there's so many asteroids out there. If you go to AstroSeek, I want to say that there's maybe like 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And those are ones that have been identified. We can track them in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you can't track them in the sky, then you don't know where they would be on your birth chart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very interesting.
I wonder how big they are. Now, I know they say they're small, like smaller than a planet, but a planet as a starting unit is already really big. So are we talking like a state? Are we talking like a football field? Like how big do you think we're talking here?
They're all different, but at least they're big enough to where we can track them.
Okay.
So I would say probably at least like a state or like a country. But I mean, again, like countries are different. I think you can fit all of like France and California for sure.
Yeah, I guess just like a medium country. I mean, because there's Vatican City's technically a country, and that's tiny, so
it's big enough to where you can track it.
Okay.
And again, we didn't have the technology to really do this until the 70s.
I see.
Which is why this practice is like so new, and people are still coming out with ways to interpret this. And there's a very interesting asteroid in your chart that I'm excited to talk about. Yeah.
So this is like still an evolving practice?
As we find more asteroids, and depending on like how they're named, that's going to influence how they affect our chart. So there is sort of like I'm going to say a modern god that's already an asteroid, which I'm excited to talk about.
Oh, okay.
But before we get to you, which is our favorite subject, I'll just give a few stories about how this affects my clients. So, really, the only asteroid that I look out for in a standard like chart reading is Chiron.
For now.
For now.
As you add more to your practice, you might start incorporating some of this.
Well, I will say that like for a first reading, like if it's someone's first ever like birth chart reading, I don't want to overwhelm them with information, because again, let's get the basics down first, like the things that we can all agree actually matter, which is like all of the planets, at least up to like Saturn. Some people have like split decisions about like anything further than that.
The nice thing is you do have clients that know their shit, that are like pretty advanced in astrology.
Yeah, it's so fun to see people at different stages of their journey, because the new folks, they're just like taking it all in, and then with the more like advanced folks or people that are further along in their journey, we can like hyper specify to like one specific thing and just go so in depth. So when you get your first reading, we just cover the surface because
it's your first reading.
Yeah.
You still have to do some education, kind of show them charts.
You can analyze your chart forever. You're always going to learn new things about your chart, other people's chart. Like astrology is a lifelong practice that continues to evolve. So yeah. So like I said, the first one that I talk about, and the one that I feel like resonates the most, because from my understanding, I want to say it's the closest one and one of the larger ones, which is Chiron. So with Chiron, I let folks know like this is sort of like the biggest pain point in your life, maybe where you have like the most traumas, and something that you need to like learn to master in this lifetime and overcome, sort of like shadow work. So
what planet is Chiron closest to?
I don't know if it's because they all orbit, right?
Orbit, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Earth and Mars orbit, and they're still our closest because it's all relative to the sun's gravitational pull. So the orbit will be the same. So, right?
If I remember correctly, I want to say that Chiron is a piece of Mars. So it broke off of Mars, so it's between like Mars and Jupiter.
Scientifically speaking, anything that orbits a planet is called a satellite. So like our moon is a satellite. Are there any asteroids that are satellites also? Or would that just be a different classification of...
I mean, I suppose so, but it just depends, because you have like the asteroid belt, right?
Yes.
Like at the edge of like
the solar system?
Not the solar system, because it's between Mars and Jupiter, but like the Milky Way.
Oh, okay.
Isn't the Milky Way just a bunch of like asteroids and stars and things?
No, we're part of the Milky Way. All our solar system is within the Milky Way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, the Milky Way's huge. Like
it's a whole unit. Okay, got it. Yeah. I was getting confused.
Yeah, so it goes like our planetary system, or our main star is the sun, and then from there it goes into. It's not straight into the Milky Way, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but the edge of our solar system, it is encompassed by an asteroid belt. I think there might be more, because I think it is kind of near Pluto, because Pluto is definitely at the edge. But we do have an asteroid belt, I think, that divides us what's a little beyond our solar system. And then we're part of, like, the Milky Way itself. And the Milky Way is, like, huge.
Yeah. Definitely. So I specifically looked up how far is Chiron, because at this point I was curious. Damn.
It's probably, let me guess, 2.7 light years away?
Oh, it didn't give it to me in light years. It gave it to me in kilometers.
Oh, God. Well, how many kilometers?
2,638,529,050 kilometers from Earth.
I don't know how much a light year is, but
that shit is hella far.
Anyways.
Yeah. So I just double checked. Chiron is actually between Saturn and Uranus.
Okay.
My bad. There's something else that's a piece of Mars that I was reading about, but again, there's just so many different ones, so much info. But The one that really resonates for most of my clients is Chiron. And like I said, this is like your shadow work. This is maybe like a pain point from when you were younger. The most recent example I could think of is when I went to San Francisco last time. I was doing a reading for somebody and they had their Chiron in their 11th house of friendship.
Oh.
So they have trauma around friendship.
Okay.
And so I forget what sign their 11th house was in, but I asked them, like, was it hard for you to make friends growing up? And then they started crying. They were like,
no.
I didn't have any friends growing up. I was a loner kid.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh. I think their 11th house was in Libra because I remember telling them, like, something that you're going to learn now is not to fall into the trap of being a people pleaser just to keep friends. You have to realize that friends is a two-way street energetically. Yeah. It's not tit for tat, but like you can't be the only one giving just because you don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Was basically like the advice that I gave to them. So.
And that resonated with them?
Yeah. So I felt bad that like they started crying, but it just showed how much it resonated with that person.
So in this example, Chiron kind of hit it straight on. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about all the interesting things in your chart because this is our favorite subject.
Alrighty.
And maybe it'll help make sense of things for you.
Okay.
But we'll see. So your Chiron is actually conjunct or very, very close to your Pallas Athena and your Jupiter.
Which means... eighth house. Okay. Let me guess.
Okay.
I haven't looked, I promise. Eighth house? It's either family or legacy. You always talk about... Am I close?
Oh, you're thinking of the 4th and the 10th, which are very important.
Okay, don't tell me. Career?
No, that's also the 10th.
I give up.
Okay.
I thought I learned, but I guess not. Okay, go ahead. What is my 8th house?
I mean, what is the 8th house is a very good question, even to astrologers.
Bro!
let me explain.
Okay.
It's because it is a mixed house of other people. So other people's energy, other people's possessions, relationship with your like ancestry, like lineage. It's another type of house of mental health, but it's like mental health with regards to other people.
Okay.
So for you, so again, Chiron is like a shadow work piece that we have to go through, a trauma. Pallas Athena. So the myth of Pallas Athena, there were two, I'm going to say like gods. There was Pallas and there was Athena. They were best friends. They did everything together. It gives like they were roommates vibes.
Okay.
But anyway, they were like besties, right? And they were very smart together and they were also very active. They like to, I don't know, I'll just say fence. Like they like to spar, for a lack of a better word. And then...
Athena is the goddess of war, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, they were sparring and then Pallas and Athena both kind of got distracted and Athena accidentally killed Pallas.
Jesus, okay.
Yeah, so she killed her best friend. So she got really, really sad and was like, oh shit. So she adopted Pallas's name. So after that incident, she was Pallas Athena to honor her friend's memory. And in her friend's memory, she said, I'm going to be a badass warrior. And
so she became a warrior after that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they were already good, but it's like, it's my life's mission to not have you die in vain.
Yeah.
So I'm adopting your name and I'm going to be the best I can be. So she really, you know, that's why she's really known as the goddess of war, because she honed her skills to make sure that it wasn't in vain. So, and then Jupiter is the house of like, or the planet of expansion, luck, things like that. So let's put all of that together for you. So you have intuitive problem solving skills, and you support others with their trauma, and Jupiter is money. You can't get away, whether you're nonprofit or for profit, like helping people through their feelings and like the worst day of their life, or maybe in the for-profit, maybe not the worst day of their life anymore, but like something kind of traumatic. So that just follows you around. However, where's the Chiron piece? You can do that for others, but you have a hard time letting others do that for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm pretty perfect though, so no, that makes sense. And I think, I know it's a super cliche analogy, but that's why they say like when you're doing the oxygen mask, you have to take care of yourself. And even when I've like trained people and you kind of brought them up in that type of field or business, it's like you have to make sure you're okay. I agree with you that like sometimes it is difficult to ask help from like other people, but I feel like I do self-regulate pretty well. Obviously, nobody can carry the weight of the world by themselves,
But you try.
but I try. But I feel like in your own way, like throughout the years, you've kind of been able to. It's slow. It's like chipping at like a big ice wall, but I feel like sometimes you have kind of made your way through, and for sure, you obviously you're my wife, so you're, kind of the love of my life. But it also, I think throughout all that, you've become such a support that eventually, I do feel comfortable with you. I mean, it's not like I'm a total wall with you all the time. I think there are times I am, but if anybody's been able to get through the most, it's probably you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of the work that you've done, again, 8th house, mental health, in terms of like relation to other people, what you do now is people sort of grieving or like having grievances against other people.
Yeah.
And you sort of help them like work through that. And then a lot of trauma is really like because of other people, like external forces. So that's been.
Let's even take it a step further. Like even this thing that we're doing with the podcast, it turned into something way different than I thought it would. And I know we talked about it recently in our anniversary episode, but I think it was just more for you and me. And then like when we do get these comments that are like, wow, because of something you said or something you guys did, now I incorporate this practice, or like that was really good to hear. I got a lot of good feedback with our shadow work one as well. I think that one was a very interesting episode because just like shadow work, it was something like it's not the stuff you want to hear, but sometimes it's the stuff you need to hear. So I think even with this, with this podcast itself, and I'm including myself here, we put something out that I think helps people and like it really resonates. And we do sometimes like stretch ourselves thin, right? It's become such a passion project for us, and we pour everything into it that it can be stressful sometimes. And we only kind of have each other. We don't really stray too much from the path of like maybe reaching out to other creators or people who have done this, which we probably should. Like we need to take our own advice sometimes. But at least we have each other, right? So I think we do good, and there's always room for improvement. I mean, there's times, I think even this morning or last night, we were in bed and you said something along the lines like, hey, can I share this with you if you're in the headspace? Because this is great. I love having a passion project. I don't think I've ever had a passion project that's been this big in the past. But with like all the great stuff that comes with it, there's a lot of responsibility. And all that to say, like with me specifically, again, I think this helps people, but then sometimes we don't take that little extra step to help ourselves. I know we always have to constantly remind ourselves like the only people we're responsible to is each other, and I think our community now too. I mean, they've been so invested and they've been so grateful, so like I do feel like I owe something to them as well, but at the end of the day, like we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Another interesting point with Asteroids, do you remember your D&D character?
Yes.
Okay.
Duchess.
Yes. So what myth is Duchess sort of modeled after? Like, who do you think you could like resonate to?
Well, she was an archer.
But her personality.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so to explain David's D&D character, Duchess was sort of like
she's regal, kind of bougie,
bougie, champagne problems, just cared about like the pretty shiny things.
Yes,
she was like like a gem collector, jewel hunter, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, basically like she just went to like the deep dark forest to try to get all these like shiny things, but I was thinking Aphrodite. I feel like
see that.
because you're very like confident and you're just like, of course I'm the best. It's giving a very Aphrodite vibe. So I looked up Aphrodite for you. And Aphrodite is really close to your midheaven, which is sort of like reputation, like how you're perceived by others. And it's also close to your Mercury. So I feel like with this is like the most public that we are, and I don't know, you give very definitely like Leo, and we like, you know, clown on him like, what about me? I'm the best, I'm perfect. But I feel like that plays into like your persona behind the camera.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But then also with Aphrodite, you know, goddess of beauty, close to your Mercury.
And wine, right?
Was she also
I think she's the
wine?
goddess of
Okay.
wine. Yeah.
I just know beauty. But you have a way with words that can help other people.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is why you have a way with words.
Yeah, how does Aphrodite fit into like speech?
So think like beauty plus Mercury, which is like
Oh, I see.
communication.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, cool.
So that's why you have a good way with words.
Yeah.
And you can kind of talk people down. And then, like I said, there's like kind of now modern gods.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
You know Rockefeller?
The super rich dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has an asteroid named after him.
Oh.
Rockefeller.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was known for being, I think, the richest person at the time, but I think more than that, he was trying to be known as like a philanthropist, right? Like the best philanthropist of all time.
Yes, but that came at a cost because
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a true capitalist where he did some shady things to amass his wealth and then sort of like wanted to
At the end, wanted to like repent.
Yeah.
I see.
So Rockefeller, the asteroid Rockefeller, in your chart sort of shows like where you're sort of like, I don't want to say ruthless or savage, but I can't think of like another word when it comes to like being successful. Interestingly, it's opposite your midheaven on your IC or like the root of your chart. So what that tells me is that there's always like a push and pull between like living comfortably and being responsible. And because it's close to the aspect of your family, like you always want to be the stabilizing force of your family to where sometimes te cuesta a ti.
Like it costs you?
It costs you your own like, I guess, health, happiness, because you just want to take care of other people.
Okay.
So it's kind of, even though Rockefeller is very capitalist, when it's in the house of your family, it's sort of interesting to see.
It's a little different dynamic to
different
it.
dynamic. Yeah.
Well, look at the rocks reading me today.
And then I don't know the myth outside of this, but there's also Psyche, who was beefing with Aphrodite for like who was the most beautiful.
I'm getting a lot of like, I don't know. These rocks are interesting. Go ahead.
These rocks are interesting. But the three that I called for you, because there were like 100, and I chose these three just because they made me think of
That makes sense.
Aphrodite, Psyche, and Rockefeller. But Psyche is on your descendant, which is 90 degrees away from your midheaven or where Aphrodite is. When something is 90 degrees away, they're basically feuding. So I thought it was funny that Psyche and Aphrodite make that square, and they're feuding like astrologically, but also they were feuding in their myth.
Okay, I explain this how Psyche relates to me though a little. I don't know if I completely understood that.
I just looked it up. I just thought it was interesting because like Psyche, psychology.
Oh, I see. Oh, so that Psyche is named after that?
I assume so. I didn't have time to look up the myth other than like Psyche and Aphrodite were beefing.
Oh, okay.
I just thought that it was funny that in the myth they were beefing.
Like a weird overlap.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, enough about me. What about you? Where does Chiron and all these extra rocks fall for you?
Where do the pebbles fall for me? So for me, they're in my 12th house, which is in Virgo. So 12,
And this is Chiron.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Which is a tough place to be because it's like the house of like mental health with yourself. It could also be like, like depression, addictions, and like overcoming those sort of things. So I've worked through a lot of my stuff, I would say like methodically, with going to college and sort of like studying like, you know, how do these things that trigger me affect other people and affect like whole systems? And I've really built like my 9-to-5 career off of that. So what that tells me is that I'm overcoming it by like all the studying. Virgo and Mercury are basically the same energy. So yeah, that's
knowledge base.
Knowledge, studying, mastery, intellectualizing your feelings. So that's how
You've done a great job though. I mean, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that these rocks affect you. With your Chiron, say you specifying where it is with like the mental health, like, and I want to say the short 10 years that I've known you, I'm definitely seeing a progression, right? A lot of that ownership, a lot of just the hard work that we've talked about in the past with like the shadow work. Even your manifestations, I think, are getting progressively more not as anxiety based. I feel when you first started manifesting, a lot of it was like, again, going back to your cliche at this point, it's become such an inside joke here with this podcast, but you know, just the money manifestation, which I'm sure you still do. I'll see your candle sometimes, and luckily now you get the ones that have like what it is for, so I can read like, oh, what is she doing now? But I do feel things have gotten better, even in that sense, right? Even in your astrology or your spiritual practice, more of your manifestation, more of your asks, more of your what's it called? Just your intentional stuff is becoming more about like the whole person as opposed to like the one specific thing that brings you anxiety, right?
Yeah,
I think you're becoming more like, I just want to be okay. I, want to be able to give to other people in whatever capacity that is. So you're finding calmness, I feel, the more you progress.
Yeah. So
Speaking of your practicing your manifestations, yesterday you went outside really late with like this cup, and I was like, what are you doing now? I thought you were going to do like a spell or something. You're like, nothing, I'm just fertilizing the tree.
Yeah, I was using like a liquid fertilizer on our lemon tree because it's kind of short, and I'm like, what's going on? And I was like, no, I'm actually not doing anything
like,
weird this time, I swear. I also looked up Persephone.
Yes.
Persephone is in my...
That's like your main person.
Yeah.
Right? You love Persephone, and that's your Megan the Stallion.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So she's in my 10th house of career, which is interesting, because my 9-to-5 job that I have now, I remember I did like a petition, and I was like, hey, I need to get out of like this toxic workplace to a better workplace, and this really encompasses like your vibe, help me out. And I got it after doing like a 2-week ritual, which is really cool. And then just giving me the confidence to sort of like go public. We made Kythera Collective in July of 2024. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How much has changed. But anyway, so yeah, it's interesting that I found her in my house of career. I was like, cool.
Nice.
And then another interesting point, I just looked up Hecate, which is the Greek goddess of the underworld, magic, witchcraft. She's really like the patron of the witches. And it's conjunct my midheaven, which is like the spotlight, how other people perceive you. So I think it's interesting. I researched it, and it's told to be like one of the signs of being a witch in your birth chart.
Like, you're really leaning into it, aren't you? Yeah, you're owning your practice the more and more we do this, which is fascinating.
Yeah,
to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But those are space pebbles. Like,
those are space pebbles. Yeah.
Are the space pebbles like super definitive? No, but sometimes it's interesting to just like see it. I just think it's
like
kind
a different perspective.
Yeah, I just think it's fun, silly, goofy, but I'm not like super convinced either, but I think it's interesting.
As far as like your personal practice, do you feel comfortable? I mean, I think with Chiron you do. Would you feel comfortable starting to do readings, like if people request like, hey, take a look at the asteroids for me?
Yeah. If that's what people want, regardless of the reason, like I can absolutely do that.
You're for the people.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it if you're a beginner unless you have a relationship with like a specific deity, then
you could look it up. Okay, so just to clarify, are they all Greek, or is there other types of gods or mythology?
I mean, the majority are, but there's even an asteroid for Anubis. We saw Rockefeller.
All the modern stuff you were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. So just go through the list. There's like so many, and you'll find something that resonates with you.
Awesome. All right, so we are wrapping up October. It's been a great year. A great month. I think all these topics were really fun. And we have our topics for November. So next month we have another Mystic Maintenance, which I'm really excited for. Our first experience exchange?
No, our second. Oh, no, yeah, you're right.
Our first. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting confused. It's our second Mystic Maintenance and our first experience exchange. My bad.
And then we have Sagittarius season, so that'll be a fun one. I know there's going to be a lot to talk about there. And then we're going to be talking about Mercury retrograde and relationships. Yep. So it'll be a fun one to discuss.
Yes.
And then if people want to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, @JenCalo or JenCalo.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching.
Remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be, and signing off. Bye.